Okay, hi Andy. Just going to start going through your evaluation here. Going to react to it in real time, so we'll take it as it comes. All right, very cool. Let's get started.
Quarter note, 120 BPM. 1, 2.
Form looks really good. Nice. Nice transition. Very nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, the rhythms look really good. Your form is good. You're nice and squared out, which is I like to see. You're winging the pinkies out a little bit. So try to concentrate on just relaxing and keeping everything on the stick. The more things you have touching the stick, the more points of pressure, your pinky, your index, your ring, your thumb, everything touching the stick gives balance to the stick. So the more you start taking points of contact off of that stick, the more you're going to be inclined to squeeze, especially when you go fast. So try to get yourself in the habit of when you're doing any exercise, try to keep everything on the stick, at least in the beginning. That's a rule you could break later, but for right now, definitely something to kind of keep in mind. Being a little nitpicky, but aside from that sounded really good. That was really solid. Let's keep going.
Accents at 120.
So here's your accents. Nice. Good.
Formal.
Okay, so as far as your accents go, it's really nice that you're setting it up with your downs, your taps, your ups. You're overworking a little bit, which is the most common thing that I see all the time. So you're doing a lot more work than you need to be doing. What I want to see with the accents in the beginning is really bringing those tap strokes to where they're like a whisper, to where they're really, really down here. Okay, as opposed to like here. So your tap stroke you want here, and then your whoops. Then your accented note, you want there, you want up there. So, as opposed to, you see the difference where everything's kind of loud and then you're over pushing on the accent. Try to keep your low strokes low and make it very clear. The goal with accents is to not overwork, okay? So you don't want to overwork your muscles. You don't want to over pull or pull up for no reason, do things like that. Studying the accents in the formal and informal position is going to train you how to shut off those muscles. So you're not pulling back for no reason. Something I see a lot, especially with tap strokes, I see this, where they're coming back, then down, back, then down, back, then down. You want to avoid that back pull. Same thing when you're in a full position, don't come back, then down. It's different than a whip, because the whip kind of builds all of those positions into it. But that's talking about the informal, and that's a totally different thing. You're kind of halfway in between the formal and the informal. So another thing I would work on is really trying to isolate which one of those you're practicing. So make sure you're either doing the formal or the informal. Don't be in between, okay? Looks good though. Everything looks really good. Okay, let's keep moving on here.
I messed that up.
That's all right.
So this is alternating single strokes, accelerando, and
okay, so now we're into sticking.
accelerando, I guess would be in Italian, but here we go.
Good. Okay. So we're into sticking. We're talking about your single strokes. Now your single strokes, you're keeping them in that German form, which is really good. But you might notice that when you get fast inside that German, you don't have a lot of use of your fingers. Okay? So drummers tend to come in to more of a French position when they get fast. Not necessarily all the way to a French position, but they kind of come halfway. And we call that the Americanized position. I don't know if you ever heard of that before. But it's kind of taking the German grip and then turning it in slightly so you can have use of your fingers. And that helps you use those fast twitch finger muscles. It's very hard to get fast in the German position because you're pushing your wrist and the twist muscles, which are much bigger. They're bigger muscles physically, so it takes a lot more power to try to get those to move fast. So as you're practicing speed, something you want to concentrate on is isolating each of those muscles. So you have your muscles in your forearms, your muscles in your fingers, your muscles in your wrists, your muscles in your shoulders. All that's going to play a part. And using the different forms to practice, say, the endurance exercises in the speed course, you want to sit there and isolate. So I'll do things like this in the German form to just work on my wrist. I'll come into a French grip and work on my fingers. You know, and I'll go through the charts in all those different ways, isolating each one to develop all the muscle groups. And then when you do something where you have to graduate from a slow speed to a fast speed, you're going to want to employ different muscles depending on what you're trying to do, if that makes sense. It's a lot of work, but it's just something to be aware of, that you don't have to be locked into that German form for everything. It's not the answer to everything. So there's going to be times where you're going to move around in that form, especially when you're on the drum set. You're really going to be moving around because there's different things you're hitting in different positions. You're going to want to be able to get to, say, the French position or the German position or the American position or whatever it is that you're doing, depending on where you are on the kit. Okay? Looks good, though.
You saw the body tense up there a little bit.
And the tension comes from just, like I said, not having the muscles developed. If you think about it like this, if you're going to the gym and you're lifting a dumbbell for the first time, right? You're lifting like an 80-pound weight. You know, you're trying to curl it. What's your body going to do? You're going to try to employ every muscle and tense it all out to bring that dumbbell up. But when you try to do it with, say, like a 20-pound or 15-pound weight, there's no tension because your muscles can handle it. So trying to go fast when your muscles can handle it, you're going to employ all these other muscles that you don't need to because you're not strong enough. And that's what tension is. That's what the tension is. So what we have to do is build those muscles up so your brain doesn't try to employ all your arms to do what your fingers should be doing. Okay? And that's something we'll work on. We'll definitely get into the speed category and get that together.
To your point, got to become more efficient. Use the fingers.
Right.
You know, a little bit of this.
Yeah.
Open roll. Start slow.
Now you mentioned that exercise where you were doing this, coming out and working the fingers, which is a great exercise. You don't have to straighten out your arm because that's uncomfortable. You know, try to keep your arms relaxed in just like a 90-degree position when you do it. You know, try to keep your wrist even as you can, and work on it that way. Don't straighten yourself out. You never want to be in a stretched position. You know, even when you're on the drum set, you don't want to stretch and reach out for everything. You want everything to be normal, comfortable, and natural when you're moving around, okay? So just keep that in mind when you're doing any of these exercises. Just try to relax yourself and put yourself in a relaxed, normal, comfortable position, okay? Good.
Here we go.
These are doubles. Again, the form is good though, because you're really holding to that German form, which is great. Okay, again, it's the same issue. Okay, when you're getting faster, you're not going to that next gear. Okay, so it's almost like you're driving in a car and you're starting to speed up and you're in first gear. Then you need to shift to second gear, which is no problem. But now when you start really getting fast, you got to shift to that third gear, and you're not. You're trying to push everything in that second gear. So the car is revving. You know, you're trying to hop on the parkway in second gear. So you're overworking the transmission like crazy, trying to get faster. When what you need to do is you need to just shift gears and let the car coast for you, okay? Those are the kind of things that we're going to talk about. So it's definitely a muscle thing that we got to focus on with you. All right, good. Let's keep going.
Close drum roll.
Love the form though. Form was looking really good. Okay, closed drum roll. You're getting a little bit from the pinch from what I can see.
I'm sure in your experience you'll find that beginners and kids always default to this rather than doing a proper open
exactly.
roll.
So you beat me to it. You're getting it from the pinch, which is what kids do, right? They pinch and push, pinch and push. Same thing goes with the open roll and the closed roll. There's a better way to do it. You could actually learn how to do it from the fulcrum, which is the place where the stick really balances, without squeezing it, okay? In other words, the fulcrum feels the same whether you're doing that, which is like a full stroke type of thing, or an open roll, or a closed roll. The fulcrum really shouldn't change or get any tighter. It's a matter of what your back fingers are doing. Your back fingers are going to control how the stick accepts that rebound. If I open my fingers, I let all the energy out. If I open them halfway and then close it, I get an open double. If I keep them mostly closed but relaxed, I get a buzz. Either way, it's all coming from the back of the stick. It's coming from back here, not from the front. Okay, it's coming from back here, not from the front. So that's definitely something to work on with the closed rolls. And in the sticking category, the closed roll sprints. Very, very good. Actually harder to do slow than fast because most people buzz them out by pinching. So try to concentrate on the closed roll by the back of the sticks, not with the back of your hand, not the front of your hand. All right?
Alternating flams.
Okay, flams we're up to.
Got nice and sloppy there too. Let's go to the next one.
Okay, now flam, same thing. Flam is all about the setup. All right, so when you're doing a flam, it's going to come into how well you're set up with the stick. And basically, it goes back to the accents. So it's doing a downstroke, which is starting up high, getting close to the drum and staying close, versus an upstroke, which is starting close, touching, and then coming high. And you're doing that opposite each other, right? So the more set up you are and the less you're pulling back for no reason, the faster you're going to be able to go. You're pulling back on every single note. So that pull back, push down, pull back, push down, pull back, push down is slowing you down. Okay? That's one thing. The other thing, of course, is develop those fast twitch muscles that we talked about for the speed. That's going to help as well. But letting the stick set itself up is going to make those flams much smoother. So that's something we're going to look at as well.
Nothing pre-planned, nothing premeditated.
Oh, I like the low volume cymbals. Nice.
There you go.
I need to get myself a set of those. Those are cool.
Take two.
You didn't have to do it with a metronome. It's much harder to do. I certainly respect it and appreciate it, though. Are those low volume drum heads as well? That is cool. That's a cool setup. I might have to steal that setup. Very nice.
That was pretty awful.
Actually, that was pretty good. You kept right with the click and right with the time. That's not easy to do. And give yourself a break.
That's where it all falls apart. So,
Okay, don't worry. We'll work on that. We'll get you there.
back to the pad. Reading. Demonstrate the following exercises on a drum pad.
I love that you cut
or
everything
snare
together.
drum.
Very cool.
This is going to twist my brain a little bit because this is more of Nard stuff.
Okay, this is the reading, right?
Okay, so that looks like a 7-stroke followed by a quarter note and a quarter rest. And it looks like, I don't know, an 11 or a 13, because that's a half note with 3 hash marks in it. A quarter rest and an eighth note, an eighth rest and an eighth note. I'm sure you have this chart memorized in your brain.
Okay, again, whatever you could do is
I would
fine.
be able
Whatever
to
you're
do
not
this
prepared
with
to do, that's
difficulty,
fine too.
But this is going to be one of the places where I'm going to have to really apply myself.
Okay, no, that's fine. Again, this is more for me to get a sense of where you are and then kind of prescribe what you should be looking at. It's not an uncommon thing to be weak in terms of reading. Reading is not something you need to be able to do. It's just if you can do it, it makes things a lot easier.
That was a mess.
Not bad.
But I
no,
look
it
forward
wasn't
to your
bad.
feedback.
It wasn't bad.
And,
So with reading in general, the reason that you don't get the reading right is they don't tell you when you learn how to read notes what the most important thing is. And ironically, the most important thing on the page with reading is actually not on the page. The most important thing is the beat, because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to keep the beat, right? They don't have the beat written there for you. They don't write 1 eanda, 2 eanda, 3 eanda, 4 eanda on top. Some books do, but normally when you're reading music, the beat or the count is not written for you. But it's the most important thing, because the notes on the page are telling you what to do with each of those beats. So if you don't start with the beat, the notes are meaningless. They don't mean anything. And most people just gravitate towards, oh, there's notes on the page. When I see a note, play. And playing is the most important thing. In reality, there's 3 separate parts when it comes to reading. There's when to play, when to rest, which is not play, and when to hold. Now, when I say when to play, when to rest, when to hold, what I'm talking about is the beats, each beat, in order, and they never skip. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and Beat 1, what is the music telling you to do? Should it play, rest, or hold? The E, should it play, rest, or hold? The end, should it play, rest, or hold? Those are the questions you have to be able to ask yourself and answer instantly as you're playing. And when you can do that, you can sight read anything. But that's as simple as it is. So knowing when to play, knowing when to rest, knowing when to hold, and you got to assign each of those actions to each beat as they go by in the measure. Does that make sense? I know it could be a little confusing. That's why you could take a little time with reading. But the bones of it is playing, resting, and holding. That's what you really want to kind of absorb. When to play, when to rest, when to hold. Okay? Now, most people get confused with holding, because in drums, we don't really have holding. Holding is the idea of ta, a note that just keeps going without stopping. So say blowing into a trumpet and holding the note. The notes values themselves tell you when to play and how long to hold them, or how long to hold them for. So you have to follow the note values based on that. Holds also aren't written into the music. They're built into the actual notes. So a quarter note plays on beat 1. It holds on the E, the end, and the of 1. And then it's done. Then you move on to the next symbol, which is whatever the next thing is. So that's how reading works. Most people don't get taught playing, resting, and holding. I never did, so it's something I had to go back and really rationalize for myself. They also tend to mash up the rhythm, which is the notes on the page, and the beat, which is the count. They make those the same thing, which gets very confusing. So the trick is to separate them. Know what the beat is, know what the rhythms are, know the values of each rhythm, and know what they tell you to do. When to play, how long to hold, and when to not play. And that's the secret to reading right there.
Feedback.
Okay, let's keep going. We should be just about ending up
At
here.
your convenience, we're all stuck inside right now. So
Yeah.
whenever you get around to
Okay.
reviewing this and providing your video reply, much appreciated.
You are very welcome.
Looking forward to
It's my pleasure.
working through the exercises.
I get a big
getting
influx
this
of these
stuff
whenever
under
I
my
open
hands.
registration, so I do get a
Thanks.
little bit behind, so I do appreciate your patience. Okay, very good. Overall, great evaluation. Did a great job at interpreting everything and going through everything very thoroughly. I do appreciate the editing that you did, so thank you for that. Yeah, you'd be amazed at the quality or lack of quality that you usually get with a lot of these evaluations. But it was great. It was great. It was great to see everything that you're doing. So the main things that I want you to focus on are definitely going to be building some of those muscles. So I want you to get into the speed course. The speed course is working out, okay? The endurance exercises. It's okay to do it in a German form. You know, you're going to find the German form is going to work better at a slower tempo. As you get faster, you're going to want to employ some more fingers. Now, you can be in a German form and use your fingers. It's a little trickier. It's a little hard to get because the stick motion is kind of coming from this twisting. It's not coming up and down. If you notice, your wrist doesn't really have much play in the German position. Okay, so you're talking more about a twist and wrist at the same time. So working on that gear, but see how big that is? See how that's such a big motion? So that's why it's better for slow and for power. As you get faster, you're going to want to turn in a little bit. See how I'm kind of turning in? This is more the Americanized grip. I'm still staying straight. You notice I'm not doing this. I'm keeping my wrist pretty straight. I'm just turning in a little bit, and now I'm able to employ the fingers a little bit more. Not as much of the wrist, but a little bit more of the fingers. If you come all the way in, now you're talking about the French, which is just the fingers. So all three of those are great to practice on the endurance chart. The endurance chart is just going to be pretty much you sitting there every day, keeping track and pounding those out and really trying to develop the muscles. Also, practicing the switch. A great exercise, not on TDA, but setting the metronome, and I don't have do I have a metronome handy? I don't. Is just, I'm just going to hold it for you, playing single strokes like this, holding it to a click, and then practicing coming in to a French, back out to a German, and try to make that transition slow and not messing up the sticks. So you want to actually keep the flow of it. Sorry, I'm doing this at a weird angle, but you get the idea. See, I'm coming down to my fingers, out to my wrists. And I'm going really out to a German, back into a French. And actually practice going back and forth while you're doing that. And that's going to actually help you develop that transition between your fingers and your wrists and keeping that all straight. Really good exercise to do. Getting to the accent workout. The accent workouts are also very good. I mean, all the workouts are very important. Rhythm is probably one of the most important things, but your rhythm was pretty good, at least the ones that are on this chart. You definitely want to get into the rhythm chart as far as just developing that and keeping that going. But for you, it's a touch thing. So working on your informal and your formal accents separately, I really want you to get into that. So definitely start working in the accent exercises and in the speed exercises. That's where I'd like to see you start. So probably those two courses or those two practice areas that focus a little more on accents and a little bit more on speed. Those are that's kind of going to be your wheelhouse for a little while. All right? Cool. If you have any questions or you need any help, feel free to reach out to me. You could reply to any email. I usually even put my phone number in there if you need to throw me a text. You can hit me up on the TDA Facebook community group. Tons of ways of getting in touch with me. Feel free to do so. Okay? Great job, and I'll see you. Maybe I'll see you on Tuesday if you're in the call. All right? Thanks, Andy. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.